Here's a little primer to help you over some of the hurdles you might be experiencing when you do things a certain way that's not actually the best. But I think you remember in Project One when I talked about, and I've continued to talk about it as we go along, naming all of your controls before you double click or create a click event or any kind of other event. Because if you do that and then you rename the control, then you've got an orphaned event handler out there, which won't necessarily fire when you click on that button or whatever it is. And then if you delete it, it breaks the code behind and you get that HTML page. So I'm going to show a couple of ways to fix that. Let me create a quick and dirty project here. And it's Windows Form C#. Next, I'm just going to call this test. And I'm putting it in the project. So the outermost directory will be called, guess what? Test. So here we go. And that's checked. Okay. So we have a basic empty shell of a project. The first thing I'm going to do is come over here and rename the form file. And again, this is just form main. It could be whatever, but that's what I'm going to call it. And ask me if I want to update the references. Of course I do. And then I'm going to come over here and change the text to something. Test. That's good enough. And then the default needs to be set to what? Center on screen. And there's form main. It picked that up. So everything's good so far. So let me go over here and put a button on here. And I just use common controls for this. And I'll drag and drop it on here. By default, the first button's name is button 1. Second button's name is button 2. Now, that's not to be confused with the text property. Two different things. This is the name of the object. This is the text property of the object. So I'm going to come over here. In fact, I think I'll just leave it the way it is right now, because this is what a lot of us have done in the past. Change this to click me or something. I don't know. Anyway, so there's my button. Now, I have not renamed it. It's still button 1. So if I go in here and add a click event for this to the code behind, you can see it says button 1. Okay? If I go into the code behind, after I rename this, and I put in btn click, change the name of it, then when I go back in here, you can see that button 1 is still there, okay, which is not the right name for that object. It's now button click. So that's why you should always rename your objects before you put event handlers in there. Now, sometimes it's a mistake. You just double click on it accidentally and it takes you in code view. Whoops, too late, I've already done it. So if you delete this button handler because it's not the right name, right? And then you go back to form main, you'll see this. There is an error. It shows you what line it's on and so forth. So what you can do is go in here, and there's the error. It's got a callback function that's using button 1 click event handler for button click, but that's not the same object. That's why it's showing this. It should be btn click. Now you can come in here, even though there's not one there now, and do btn click. Let's see what it does. Let's see if it'll let me go back. All right, now I can go in here and probably add that. No, it won't let me do it. Okay, see if I can go to designer. No, it won't let me. Okay, so let's do is let's just comment that line out right there. Okay, I don't want you to get back here and do too much, but this is something that's pointing you directly to it. So if it's an error and it won't let you look at it, comment it out. And we go here. Now I can go back to form main, and I can double click on this thing. See that? Now it created the correct click event. Now, if I had seen this beforehand, I would have left that button 1 click in there, and I would have went in there and created another one. Let me show you another way to handle this. So you see it's updated that now. What if I drop another button? Let's just drop another button on there. Okay, it's button 1 because it's the first button without a name. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this, double click it as if by accident, and there's the errant event handler. What I can do here, if I go back and I rename that control, something else, let's call it button test, lack of a creative thing. And I go back to code view, I'm going to see that I've renamed it so this event's not connected to that button anymore. But before I throw that error, I can go in here and just copy and paste it, right? And then call it button test, click the underscore click, okay? All right, now I can go over here and click on my button and go to my events, a little lightning bolt list here. And you can see I've got several events here, all my click events. The one I just created was called button test, so I'm going to select that one. That's what's going to wire to that button. So now I can go to code view and I can delete this and it won't throw an error. All right, so there's several ways you can do this, whichever works best for you, but you might want to play around with it, create your little temporary project and start doing that kind of stuff and see if you can fix it, because I know I've seen some of you already run into this and it's very common. I have it myself sometimes. If I'm not paying attention, I double click on something by accident, well, then I got to go in there and do this. So anyway, now you got it fixed, okay? So that should be all right. So let me know if you have any questions. I hope this helps. Thanks.